Adopt the agenda.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? It has the amendment in there, correct?
Right.
Thank you. Roll call?
Mrs. Dunbar?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamburg?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryce?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Motion for reading the minutes of January 8th work session and January 12th organizational meeting.
I'll move. I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Hamburg?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryce?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunbar?
Yes. Communications and visitors.
Yes, I wanted to take the opportunity this evening, as we talked about last month, to talk about where we're at with what next school year looks like in terms of our instructional realignment. And so I've got our whole team here, or parts of our team, and hopefully provide some information for you in the next 20 minutes and get some feedback and some thoughts. Shout them out as we go. Got it. Just want to refresh what we had talked about last month. Our challenges are here that state operating standards. I've been in contact with Larry Grooms out of the regional office for ODE here in Southwest Ohio, and we're confirming that 3,526 would be the regular attendance. Now remember what that regular attendance stands for. And that's the number that we're trying to pin down, that, these numbers change, and we're not sure of enrollment figures, but we're working off that number. That is your total attendance, which I believe is 4,073 today, or 64, or, still working on that, don't have that number this week. That's that total number minus all of our identified special needs students. You don't calculate the state operating standards with identified special needs students, nor do we have the special education staff. That's a whole separate operating piece that we're dealing with. So I want to make sure that if that number is correct, then we need to get down to 141 teachers, and that means that we needed to reduce the staff by 16 teachers, 15.2 positions. The number of educational support personnel will be staffed at 20. We were below that by 4.47. So we've got that up close to the 20 mark. And what that means is we've taken certified staff that exist, that have other licensures that qualify for that ESP staffing. And remember what ESP staffing is: educational support personnel, your nurses, counselors, K4, K8, art, music, and PE. So we've got all those. We also have visiting teachers. Remember, we talked about that at some point, that the state operating standards don't clearly identify what it is, but we need some. Remember that comment? So that's where we're at. We're trying to bring that total back up to 20 and reduce the positions. And then reassignment, realignment of staff, which supports those state operating standards, then is what we're working off of. I wanted to make sure it was clear to our board audience, this is what we're working state operating standards off of. And keep in mind that, remember, we were at 22.1 in the current teacher-student ratio, and we needed to get to 25.1, District 1. That's what we'll get there by reducing that number, 3526 divided by 25, correct, should equal 141 right around there. That's how you determine it. That's what our challenge is. That's what we're building next year's offerings off of. Okay, go ahead.
So, financially, what they're looking at, it doesn't have anything educationally. The state minimums have to be 25 to 1. That's all they're looking at.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, Mrs. Dunbar, exactly that. This is about a formula that we have to meet in terms of state operating standards. And now we're trying to get to that particular point. And don't forget, the directives were to look at more consolidation. This is the State Oversight Commission. Reduction to this formula. You need out of work at state operating standards. And look at our transportation efficiency, and we're going to go through all of those things tonight. Obviously, this has been quite challenging for us, but we've worked diligently since December at getting to this point. The challenges obviously are huge. We don't know what our funding is going to be. We're waiting on the new budget to come out. How do we deal with attrition related to staff resignations and retirements? I want to stop and preface it with everybody. You know, our teaching staff is wanting to know everything. Our parents want to know everything. This is a work in progress. I expect to have updates to you guys, our board, every month. I expect that 15.2 staff reduction, the names to change, because a lot of different things are going to happen all the way up till we open school. Not to mention, we don't know what enrollment's going to look like. I've got it down here. Is it going to get bigger? You know, we pass a levy in May. It's down there. Does that change the landscape of how we offer? Does everybody rush back in? And then, you know, but what I need to know, and what you need to know, is that our State Oversight Commission agrees that we're going to work on those last numbers, and we're not going to come back and say, you know, hey, we didn't mean 3526. What we meant was this. You know, we need to know that the direction that we're heading after tonight, you can provide us some input. You know, well, we'll take the next couple of days, and then we'll work with them on Thursday, get some input, and then we'll start implementing the plan. That's the way I looked at approaching this. Creating a staffing plan that aligns and utilizes our existing personnel in the area of licensure is a huge piece. Keep in mind, we'll have a reduction of force of 15.2. I'm not interested in going out and hiring other teachers when I know that the 15.2 I let go are pretty good teachers. So it's a real challenge for us. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but I'm not interested in predicting it with all the unknowns until that particular piece comes about. Does that make sense? In other words, right now what we've tried to do is you maximize class sizes here at the high school. It's a good example of your core areas, and you maximize them at 30, 35 to 1, 35 to 1 up here, and then you start planning electives around those offerings. But if that changes and we lose somebody, let's say that we lose a really good physics teacher, or we lose a science teacher, then we might have to look at how it affects the teachers that we just let go. Do we have somebody else on staff that can go there? How do, you know, who would be the next to come back? Do they get a job? You know, can we actually go through that process, because it's such a tough licensure piece and it doesn't fill? Maybe we will have to go back outside and hire. A lot of this is very, very difficult for us, just around the simple things of licensures, enrollment, what we're projecting to offer. We know that everybody wants the information, and we want to get it to you. You know, our goal tonight was to hopefully give you an idea of what the shell looks like, and then you're going to get into it a little bit with your different leaders from the buildings. But it's going to change, and I caution everybody. As we go tonight, don't go running out that, you know, this is all set in stone, because there are going to be changes to it, but it should give you a general direction for what we're trying to accomplish. Questions? Go to the calendar. Next year, the district returns to a semester calendar schedule after being on a trimester since '98. Returning to a semester calendar will enable us to offer more and maximize our high school offerings with the staff that we have left. And going away from the trimester for next year will allow us to offer more things to our children. We need to do it. But the problem is, and we talked about this and we need to capture it, is that the level of service for which we provide these programs won't be the same. how we support these programs won't be the same. What we valued in the trimester, where every student that walked through the doors had a plan, had an advocate or advisor, advisee, had extra help, had all those support pieces in place, those are the things that we're very concerned. You're not going to have those. And we're going to have to find different ways to support it. And with that will come challenges. I expect that we'll have issues in discipline, attendance, just to name a few. That's the issue right now. The other piece, as you look into this, you might see that it works next year. Can we sustain it? How do we sustain it? If we're not going to pass levies, does it get sustained? And moving forward, and I've been fortunate enough to be a part of Little Miami for coming up on 14 years. I was here in 97, 98, when it was no longer acceptable to offer those traditional 8-period days where the senior year meant nothing. So I was part of the school reform initiative here at Little Miami to go to the trimester to get away from that traditional schooling piece. If you look at the configuration overview, we're down to 4 buildings. We're going to put Salem Township Primary, which is, will house our preschool through grade 2, intermediates to 3, 4. The junior high is going to have the biggest impact right now at grades 5 through 7. That's 3 grades instead of 2 grades. I shouldn't say I'll have the biggest impact because then I get the dirty looks over here from my administrator saying that's not necessarily true. And the high school is still going to remain at 8-12. As we go through some of these things, I'm going to let the team come up and talk, and they're going to be very brief, but to show, to give you an overview of some of the challenges. You've got a great administrative team that's worked diligently to really take what they know from their teachers, the positives, the negatives. The bottom line is we're able to save a great amount of dollars, and we're able to provide some extra offerings because we are consolidating more. And somebody said the other day, well, isn't that going to be some extra transportation costs because it'll go to 2 Mile? We're going to be saving $1.2 million more dollars in this plan. We're cutting more staff. We're able to get all the grade levels. This is not what, grade level buildings is not what I was ever told to go get. We value our neighborhood schools here still. But because we have not passing our levies, we have to get creative in terms of how we offer it. Keep in mind, consolidating again helps us get to those offerings for next year. But it also is going to have some issues with an unpredictable enrollment. All those things that we just talked about, it's going to change. But this is the shell of how we're going to try to provide. Go ahead.
I just have a question with this scenario. How much room do you have if people choose to come back? I mean,
I'll let those-
if we have what we have right now,
Right.
we can accommodate this, or can we not?
Right, and it's a great question. I can't give you that answer. We've talked about it. We can speculate all we want. I'll go to this right now. Talk to me about how many rooms you have down at your building.
That will have empty,
Yeah.
maybe 6.
So they may have 6 rooms. That may work for 2 years. If we can promise that preschool through grade 2 is going to level off. It may not work. I don't know that. If you go to the high school, you might see enrollment decline coming up. I'm hearing that 8th and 9th class is going to get a lot smaller. So we might be able to work there. The junior high, going to be packed. Going to have high class sizes all across this district. Willing to sacrifice, give it our best. Don't know how we're going to deal with enrollment, Mrs. Dunbar, but I can tell you, we'll give you a great effort.
Well, no, I guess what I'm saying is, as our current situation is right now, if we were not to lose any kids, we could house in this.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And we might be able to grow in some areas, what my point was. What I, speculate this. We lose 500 kids next year. I don't know. I'm just having an open conversation with you right now. We lose 500 kids next year. I would speculate that we possibly might have more issues with the state oversight saying, hey, we're going to go down to this number, we're going to cut X amount of teachers. That's the cycle we're in right now. And, what's it mean for more consolidation if we drop? Maybe then, I don't know. We'll be here next year. But ask me if I've got a plan. We're just reacting as a board right now. That's all we can do. Open conversation, being honest. I'm going to let these guys come up and give you a little idea of what they are proposing that they want to accomplish and what they offer next year. Knowing that it's going to change probably, right? And we listed why it might change. Licensure issues, attrition, retirements, job sharing, people taking other positions. We expect all that to happen. But this is the kind of the shell that we wanted to share with you guys so that when we get the input in the coming days. And Thursday, really, with the State Oversight Commission, I'm just really interested in making sure we're all on that same initial number, making those, we're going to work on that enrollment piece that actually meets state minimum, state operating standards. Okay? Is everybody good? Right?
On the transportation side, we'll be moving from our current 3-tier configuration to a 2-tier configuration. And there you can see that the grade level breakout, how we're looking at transporting students for next year. Currently, our transportation department is working with the Ohio Department of Education. They've actually, as part of the service to us, are reviewing route efficiencies and looking at our routes to see if there's any further way for us to get any more efficient by reducing routes or changing routes. And there are 2 areas that they're looking at right now. Obviously, with our 100 square miles, the issue of percent ridership tends to drop when we have our longer routes and we go out into the rural areas. And right now, they're asking questions and communicating with our department that the expectation that we put more kids on buses that are out in the outreach, outside our 4 areas toward our boundaries, which may require us to have kids on buses longer. That's a concern because you're now looking at maybe kids being on a bus for an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes. And I think we're trying to stay down under that 55-minute figure. That's been the goal of the transportation department. The other area, and it's an area that has been growing, is in the area of our private school transportation. As we've had more students leave, we've had more requests to provide transportation. Currently, I know we had a call from a parent the other week about transporting to St. Susanna's over in Mason, and we've been paying in lieu of there. I think we have 6 students there right now, but I know that they're aggressively and actively recruiting in this area. They have space, and they've just made a big addition over there. Also related, we have, I think, some preschools in the area that are looking at establishing first grade, offering first grade, and also all day, every day kindergarten. So we're projecting that will impact our enrollment and the kids that we transport if those programs come about.
One of the things real quick, as you look at, one of the things I'm monitoring very closely, I think, is you get some direction from the state in terms of how it could be more efficient. They're proposing some transfer area on it, in other words, public run it and try to do the transfer piece. And I've been involved with it for 8 years, and the transfer piece seems really good. It could save us some dollars, maybe on buses in basically 2 buses and 2 drivers, but then you might have to put some dollars back into supervising that transfer that we don't ever think of. And so I'm kind of arguing that point. I'm going to make sure that we have the staff, adequate staff, that are going to be able to supervise. You know, if we're not going to put some aides back or things like that. And we're finding those issues are popping up all over even this year. So does that make sense? I mean, I'm a little bit concerned. At least if we're going to account for the savings, are we going to put some supervision back in to look at the transfers when it happens? The transfers are, we run our routes, we bring them to one of our schools, and then we hold the students for a period of time. And we used to do it, but it ended up being not a safe situation for us. I mean, because we don't have the adequate supervision. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that's where I was standing on it as we work through. It looks great on paper, but it doesn't necessarily work the 100 square miles. Because you're actually supervising students for a long period of time, you're going to need to make sure somebody's there. So I just wanted to make sure that. Go ahead, Greg, I apologize.
Well, let's go back to building
That's a
schedule.
big-
That's probably one of the more important pieces of information that people are interested in. One of the things that we're looking at on this high school, junior high site, as we were looking at our experience over the last few years with the junior high and high school, we've had staggered start times because of some traffic issues to try to get traffic on and off the site. The reality is that we are now at the point where we have the 8th grade on a separate schedule from the high school students. And the reality with staffing and supervision and academic offering possibilities, the reality is we need to align that schedule and put grades 8 through 12 onto the same 7-period day schedule. So that's what we're proposing for next year. And that will mean some more opportunity and flexibility for us using our staff and providing opportunities for students. That will also cause some major traffic issues here. And so we're looking at a different traffic pattern, and we're working with Hamilton Township to review that. We've had a preliminary meeting, and we do have a tentative new traffic pattern that we've drafted out for next year. And so that's what we're looking at developing. It's still going to be, I think, there's going to be a lot of traffic in and out until everybody gets the new pattern down. So we're going to ask for a lot of patience next fall as we unveil the new traffic pattern and we more closely align the start times on our junior high and our high school. But it makes sense academically to do this. And right now, I think we need to do all we can to support the academics for our kids.
And just a comment on that, in our practice, as you well know, many of you that endure the drop-off pickup, is that as we get through next year, we do those trial pieces that we may have to adjust by 5 or 10 minutes, but those are your tentative start times of what we're trying to do with the 4 locations. So could be some changes up front, could be, as we go through that first couple of weeks. Minor.
I'm going to get this thing going the right direction at some point. I'm not doing it.
You are.
Oh, let's try it here. I'm going the wrong way.
There you go.
Mrs. Trevathan, is our student services director, is going to come up and talk about student services. One of the things that I wanted you to look for as we go through this part of the presentation and the respective building presentations about program for next year, you'll see a concerted emphasis in the language arts area, especially starting at grades 5, 6, up through, in particular, the 8th grade. Extended language arts blocks, looking at both composition and technical reading and writing. You will see some double blocking at the 8th grade with language arts as well as 2 separate periods dedicated to that at grades 6 and 7. You'll also see some enrichment and gifted opportunities that are not present this year in the elementary levels that Mrs. DeRaven has spent some time looking at how we can develop that, provide more opportunities for kids. Kathy?
From the special education perspective, we're going to have resource rooms and the co-teaching models in each of the buildings, which is what we currently have as well, although we don't have a resource room at Mainville. And then all buildings will have the speech services, the occupational therapy, physical therapy, and school psychologist services at each building. So none of those services will be really any different than what we're doing now. We have enough students that need those services. From the English as a Second Language program, it looks like it will be cost effective to switch to use one of our teachers as an ESL teacher rather than contracting out with International Language Plus, which will actually give us more hours of time, more support to our teachers for our ESL population, which has been increasing. We've even just this week had a couple that qualified for services. We need to start looking at that, how we can have those services in-house and not contract for that. And those services also will be in all the buildings. For gifted and enrichment programming, we're looking at having a gifted or enrichment program at each grade level. We do have our funded units at the 4th and 5th grade levels, and those are based on state standards. That's the money that the state gives us. They're very clear in how we can run those units. As far as the other grade levels, I'm looking at our clusters, our groups of students that are identified and gifted, especially reading and math, and how we can put them together and have classes at each level to help support the services of the gifted. Because as you know, in Ohio, you have to identify gifted students, but you don't have to serve them. And I hate telling parents that because it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So we're going to try to do something a little bit different next year. Good evening, I'm Regina Morgan. I'm currently the principal at Mainville. Next year, I believe I'll be moving toward Salem. We'll be merging our staffs. We'll take the grades 1 and 2 from Mainville and move them over to Salem Primary, and the 3rd graders will be moving to the intermediate school. At Salem Township, we will be, again, using the co-teaching model with our special education students. We will also have a resource room for them as well. The co-teaching model is a beautiful model to work with our special education students. We'll also be exploring our flexible instructional grouping. Basically what we will do is our teachers will pre-test. With the pre-test, we will look at skill grouping. We'll put them into their groups. We will teach them at their level, building them up, and then assess at the end, making sure everybody's where they need to be. But it's a great way when we have taken away those reading intervention, math intervention classes that we did once have. It's a great way to still meet those students' needs right where they are, continue to bring them up, and do it with our classroom teachers. So we are going to, we have a little bit of that in place now. We are going to look at that, incorporating that a bit more. With our specials, we do have a science core now, and we have music once a week, which have both been fabulous this year. We're also at the exploration stage of looking at a media center class as well. So I'm hoping to keep as many specials as possible. We also have some computer software programs that help us in some intervention and just enrichment as well. We have the Fast Forward program. Currently we have, let's see, grades, kindergarten through, or do we have preschool as well? K through 5 going through the Fast Forward program. And First in Math is a program that has been very successful in the elementaries, and I believe all the way up through junior high, is that correct? Up to 7th, where we have some competitions between buildings, we have competitions between students. Every day at Mainville we have a student of the day in each classroom, we have a team of the week, we have a student of the week, and it's basically math games that these students go in and just enhance their math skills. We also have a Brain Pop Junior program at the elementary level to, again, intervene and enhance with the educational process. Next year we would like to continue with some professional development for our staff. focusing mainly on Writer's Workshop, which is something that, again, in some of our classrooms has been implemented and working beautifully. In other classrooms, it hasn't been implemented yet. So it's something that we can continue to implement, and doing some more math talks. Mrs. Horvath and Mrs. Zawadny have been great with helping with those professional development activities. We also, like Mrs. Trevathan said, we are going to establish a reading enrichment class at grades K1 and 2 at Salem Township to kind of help, again, with that gifted population, upper level academic population, so that we can take them and continue to move them, meet them where they are and continue to move them on. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Contner, one of the principals at the intermediate school. For next year, we will be moving to a 3-4 building. This year, we do have part of grade 3 in our building and all of grade 4, so that won't be that much of a change. We will be primarily having self-contained settings for those grade levels, depending on teacher licensure, which means that some of our 4th grade teachers may have licensure that only allows them to teach 2 subjects. So in that situation, of course, we would be pairing them up with another teacher. We will be having flexible grouping for our students between the teachers as needed. That will be based on data. We will have collaboration between our general ed teachers and our intervention specialists for direct instruction and small group support, which we're referring to as the co-teaching models. We will have data-driven instructional decisions based on the frequent formative classroom assessments that the teachers do themselves in their classrooms daily, and then also based on the common short cycle assessments that all teachers give. We will have collaboration between our teachers for instructional unit development for core subjects. And really what that is seeing each other as resources and being able to share all the materials that we have. We will be having professional development for our staff regarding the new state and national instructional standards and we will also have professional development for our staff on standards-based progress reporting, which our 3rd grade teachers do now, and we'll be moving our 4th grade teachers into that next year. We will be continuing our positive behavior supports for student behavior. At the intermediate school, we use a Panther Praise Point system that all the kids work toward, and they really enjoy doing that. And then for our special classes next year, we will be looking at some physical education, some music. We hope to keep our science support and then come up with a media center experience, which may be some integrated studies of some sort in our media center for all of our students. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Tom Turner, principal of the junior high school. Along with me at the junior high school, Mr. Bennett, he's housed there as well. And
I'm doing a very good job at discipline.
he does roll his sleeves up and get involved. Talk a little bit tonight about what the junior high school will look like for 5th through 7th grade. It will be a very significant change, especially for our 7th grade staff. For the past 13 years, they've been very involved with the teaming concept and all things that comprise of the middle school concept. So this will be brand new to our 7th grade staff, as well as our 6th grade staff who have been undergoing teaming concept for years in our 5th grade. Looking at our 5th grade, the design that will be comprised will be our 5th grade will have teachers that are combining the language arts and social studies integration and the math and science integration in teaching. Along with that, to serve our federal funded gifted programming, we will have a self-contained unit to meet the state requirements. Our special offerings for 5th grade will be music, band, health, art, PE, and keyboarding. One caveat that I should point out there is that students will be required to choose whether they're going to be in band, which will be all year, and that would serve as their elective for the year. And that's how we would satisfy, or how they would getting their special offering. Sixth grade will move from receiving 4 persons. They'll have five teachers that they will be exposed to. Composition or a writing class, literature or reading, math, we will have advanced offerings there. Science and social studies will be offered. Special class offerings with the same concept with the music or band, health, art, PE, and keyboarding. And our 7th grade will mirror what our 6th grade looks like. The composition, literature, math, science, and social studies. The offerings being the same with regard to specials, and then currently understanding of junior high athletics and the limited extracurricular activities that remain to continue. That will be the junior high experience for our 5th and 6th graders next year. I know we have a staff that is very understanding of what is to take place, committed, and we'll do the best because that's what the students that come to the junior high can come to expect and have expected, and we'll continue that. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
In terms of the specials, so will these be on a semester basis? So it might have a semester visit, for example, semester keyboarding. You're not necessarily going to get all of those. You'll get band if you choose band, or a couple of the others perhaps.
That is a great question. When you look at a semester offering, we did consider that, and along with the other pieces, looking at 18 weeks could become quite a length of time. In meeting with 5th through 7th grade students where they were at, we are looking currently at 9-week offerings and giving them a taste into each one of the remaining electives or specials that are available to them.
So this might be actually kind of paired up.
Very well could be, or just they would travel through. We're still working out the logistics of that and how they would travel through as a student. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Allison Gates, assistant principal at the high school. Next year at the high school, we will still be 8 through 12, and what our day will look like is, like Mr. Power said, 8 through 12 will be on the same schedule. We are going to be on a 7-period day, all starting at the same time, ending at the same time. With our 7-period day, what we plan on doing is we plan on having a double block for our 8th graders in language arts. By doing so, we are hoping to increase our focus on technical reading and writing across the curriculum, which is very important when they get to the high school. So we thought it was important to add that at the 8th grade. For the 8th grade, our special offerings are going to be art, music, and PE. And just to answer what Mr. Turner said, with the music, if they choose band, that would be a year-long course. But for us, it's going to be a semester that they will choose. So they may not get all of the specials that are provided. Right, band will be year-long, correct. At grades 9 through 12, something that we're going to do that's a little different next year that we hope to do is to add some online course offerings to provide more electives for our students. And what we will do is they will schedule a study hall, and during that study hall, we will have somebody supervising the online program. They would be able to take electives, things that we don't offer. For example, upper level foreign language courses would be available, possibly some additional AP courses that we don't teach in-house at this time. We will continue to offer all the honors and AP courses that we currently have, as long as enrollment stays as it is to provide those. And then we will continue our extracurricular activities. And Mr. Bennett was talking about the ESPs. We need to go up to 20. We will be gaining an additional counselor available to support our students because of the ESP transition. One of our French teachers will be moving to the guidance department.
Thank you, Allison.
Yep.